Hey, and welcome to Stay at Home Time with Robin and African Payment Solutions. Something a little bit more broad topic wise about Africa, just to give some context about the continent and what's happening on it. The COVID-19 is obviously going to have quite a significant impact on the level of hunger around the world, and Africa is particularly impacted by this. Currently, there are about 135 million people who are experiencing critical food insecurity. Africa faces bigger hurdles than any other continent in the world. About 73 million people are at the risk of starvation. The key territories that are going to be most effective are northern Nigeria. About 7 million people will be affected there, Sudan and South Sudan. The DRC, which is the worst impacted, about 15 million people, Ethiopia and Zimbabwe. The main drivers of this food insecurity found on the African continent are the conflict and insecurity, kind of interstate conflicts and internal violence, regional and global instability and political crises, and many people are being displaced as refugees. The weather extremes, droughts and floods across the continent, economic shocks, the macroeconomic shocks like hyperinflation and currency depreciation, and then of course inflation like rising food prices and reduced purchasing power for the consumers. And then East Africa has been hit particularly badly by pests, desert locusts which have destroyed crops, and then health shocks, disease outbreaks like Ebola, where certain countries are at risk of that breaking out again, like the DRC. And displacement, the side effect of conflict and food insecurity and weather shocks is that people they need to move territories to get away from these effects. So the authorities are suggesting that towards the end of 2020, it could be upwards of 265 million people affected who could be on the brink of starvation globally, and that's almost double the current rate of crisis level food insecurity that we have at the moment, pre-COVID. So yes, that gives you some context. Obviously, the more urbanized Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, where we have our online payments business, and e-commerce is particularly in a high growth phase, are less affected by that. This is more impacting the rural populations. And I'd just like to say thank you to Visual Capitalist, who provided this information for their amazing graphics that they send out every day. And if you're looking for online payment across Africa, so that's Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, give us a shout. We'll get you paid at the checkout. And I hope that you are all keeping safe. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to chatting again tomorrow.